What is up, fam? It's your boy Paul P. Haney Jr. and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right. What is up, fam? It's your boy Paul P. Haney and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right. We come to you every week. As a matter of fact, we come to you every single Monday. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, okay?
What is up, fam? It's your boy Dave D. Henny, and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right.
Hey, what's your boy Paul P. Henny, and this is your One Day at a Time podcast. That's why you got this. Oopsies.
What is up, fam? It's your boy Paul P. Henny, and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right, fam. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave a rating wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to share, fam, because you never know if somebody might get some value or find some value in what we are sharing here. And remember, we're coming at you every Monday. That's right, every Monday. So today, I actually want to talk about this thought. And that thought is simply this. Children are imitators. That is why we must live lives worth imitating. Fam, I'm going to repeat that again for the people in the back. All the way in the back. I mean, all the way in the back, okay? Children are imitators. That is why we must live lives worth imitating. You see, we see this in all aspects, especially for those of us in the education field, those of us who are parents, and quite honestly, simply those of us who are adults within our community. I mean, in your family, it could be you as an uncle, as an auntie. You're an individual who has influence in the lives of children. But for me as a father, where I really see this is with my boys, right? Okay, my boys are really starting to pick up an interest in sports. And fam, I'll be honest, I'm excited. I finally got one. I thought I had some earlier on, some Philadelphia Eagles fans, as you see my hat right here. But as they got older, some of them started to find their own teams. One like the Kansas City Chiefs. We're Detroit, Michigan now. So two of them, since we've been here, have become Detroit Lions fans. But my youngest, he is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And quite honestly, he can be pretty animated when he says, "Let's go Eagles!" And then he'll start talking about Jalen Hurts. That's how he says his name right, Jalen Hurts. So he became an Eagles fan by imitating me, his father, right? And we see this in life, fam, whether it's hobbies, whether it's different interests. Children find ways to imitate the adults that they are around. So my question for you is, what are you giving them to imitate? So once again, as a family member, for me as a parent and as an educator, I think about this a lot. Because not only do I see my children, I see the children that I'm currently working with in Detroit, Michigan. And I also saw the children that I worked with in Richmond, Virginia. Fam, I see it. I see it on a daily basis. I see the children bringing in the habits of their parents and those that are within their surroundings on a daily basis. So the question I have for you is, what are we giving our children to imitate? What are we giving our children to imitate? Here are three things that I thought of today that we can give our children to imitate, okay? And we'll cover them one by one. The first area would be work ethic. The second area would be accountability. And the third area will be integrity. So let's talk about work ethic. Okay, now here's the thing, fam. We all know, especially those of us that have jobs who have lived a little bit of life, we know that if you really want something, you're going to have to work for it. As a matter of fact, I remember the first time I heard this statement was when I was in college. And here's that statement. The only way or the only place I've ever seen success come before work is in a dictionary. And I remember the first time I heard that, I said, oh, that's some good stuff right there. Let me repeat that again. The only place I've seen success come before work is in the dictionary. Okay, so even if it's working smarter and not harder, the common denominator is still work. You still have to work smarter and not harder. Okay, I do think there is something to that, but you still have to figure out a way to work. So my wife Kiara and I, what we will do is we teach our boys how to work. You know, they have chores around the house. There's certain things around the yard. If they play outside, they know that there's certain things that they have to do before they come back inside. And sometimes let's be real, fam, we got to give them those friendly reminders or those parent reminders. But get your stuff up. Don't be leaving your stuff in my yard. You know, we got to give them those reminders every once in a while. But we know that it's going to serve them well in the long run. As a matter of fact, I think about my mom and something that she did with us was she taught my brothers. I have 5 brothers. She taught us how to do certain things around the house because she said, you know what? I want to be sure that you are prepared for the wives that you will have down the road. And I can tell you this, fam, my wife is appreciative that there's certain things around the house that I can do. So what's going on? My children are seeing their father help out around the house. There chores that I have. There's certain things that I do every single day as I'm teaming with my wife. So my boys are seeing my work ethic as I'm doing these things. They see me working around the house. They don't see me just watching sports. Do I watch sports? Yes, but I'm also helping out around the house. Sometimes what we'll also do is we will take one of their chores and just remind them that we know how to do the things that we're asking them to do. As a matter of fact, just recently, our hot water heater went out. Adult problems, right? Life was just lifing. Our hot water heater went out. So until we were able to get it replaced, we had to figure out a way to still wash the dishes. So what my wife began to do was to boil water in order to help us have hot water for us to wash the dishes. And there was a night or two where I did the exact same thing. So I took that opportunity, and my wife, Kiara, she also took the opportunity, actually more her than me this time around. We took the opportunity to remind our boys that we've done this before. And we showed them how to wash dishes, okay? How to wash dishes with no dishwasher and with no hot water. This is something that just had to be done, okay? Just because the dishwasher's not working, just because the hot water tank is not working, we still can get hot water by simply heating water up, putting it in the dishpan, having soapy water, and washing those dishes. My wife showed my son. I showed my son, the son who's specifically in charge of the dishes at this point. And we showed him, this is how you do it, and it doesn't have to take all day. So what is he seeing? He's seeing our work ethic with his chore. So I'm not just telling him the chore to do, I'm showing him, son, this is how you do it. Kiara is showing him, son, this is how you do it. Right? So we're showing them the work ethic with the hopes that they're following our example. The next one, accountability. Accountability. And fam, accountability, simply put, is it means simply to take responsibility for one's actions and to answer for them. Right? To take responsibility for one's actions and to answer for them. Now, I think about this, especially as an educator. You know, as I mentioned before, I'm currently in Detroit, Michigan. In my first year, fam, I am not going to lie to you. Those first few months were hard, okay? I remember there were so many days I would walk down the hallways in our school and I would ask myself, Paul, what have you gotten yourself into? What have you agreed to? And then after a while, we begin to get our footing, right? We begin to get our footing. But earlier in the year, we actually lost quite a few teachers for various reasons. Okay, we lost some for various reasons, and it was challenging. And we had substitute teacher after substitute teacher coming in, and some were great. As a matter of fact, one is still with us to this day because he did such an outstanding job. And he was actually a natural fit for what we were looking to do. But every once in a while, there would be subs that was just substitute teachers who were there for just one day. And I remember one particular day, there was a substitute teacher who called me down to her classroom. And she said, Mr. Henderson, these students keep making this noise. I asked them to stop, and they keep on making the noise. Literally, as she's telling me this, now I'm the dean of students, right? I'm over culture, I'm over behavior, a lot of suspensions and so on and so forth. They come from me, suspensions, consequences, but however we choose to deal with the situation, a lot of them come from me. So she tells me what's happening, and literally, fam, as she's telling me what the students are doing, one of the students chooses to make the noise right in front of me. Now, I heard the area where the noise came from, and I just knew that I had the right student. Okay? And I say to the young man, I says, so you're going to make this noise right in my face as she's telling me what's going on. Head to my office. Head to my office. So he heads to my office, and we're going to have a man-to-man talk, right? Because you're not going to sit up here and disrespect me because, fam, am I a loving educator? Absolutely. But by this point, right, I'm ready to dig into the student because, it got to a point where we had to really establish authority. We had to figure out a way to gain control within the school. So every once in a while, I had to be, very firm. And I actually think that being firm is a loving thing because our students need to understand what it means to have authority and to honor and respect authority while still being loved by still being cared for by said authority. So I called this young man into my office, and I'll be honest, he was a tough one. We have some students who you might say are what you would call fake tough, right? They do these things in front of their friends, their classmates, their peers. But this guy was actually, he was kind of tough. He was a shorter guy, right? But he was actually kind of tough, and I knew that about him. And so we were talking, and the attitude and the defiance was just off the charts. And I looked at him, and I said, what you want to be a little thug, right? And fam, I'll be honest, I actually said this to him. I said, you want to be a little thug? Where is that going to get you? Where is that going to get you? But then, of course, I had to soften it, right, fam? I said, what's your vision? What's your vision? Because I want him to be thinking about his vision. First I'm asking him, does he want to be a thug? Now I'm asking about his vision. Make it make sense. Here's the thing, though. He told me he did not have a vision for his life. That did hit me, fam. It did hit me. So what I said to him, and I meant this, I said, how about this? We can catch up from time to time, and I can help you establish or identify that vision for your life. And reluctantly, he agreed, okay? He agreed. We talked for a little while longer, and then I sent him back to class. I soon found out that it was not him that made that noise in the class while I was talking. It was the person behind him. Fam, and it was actually a young lady, okay? And she made the voice in a way that it could have been either one. I knew that I had to get it right with him. I knew that I had to get it right with him. Because here's the thing. I've seen this happen from time to time where adults will get it wrong, right? Okay? Adults will get it wrong. We know that we got it wrong, but we don't go back to that student and apologize. So how am I going to tell him to be accountable, but I'm not choosing to be accountable? Make it make sense. It doesn't work that way. And I firmly believe in true justice, meaning, if you do something wrong, there's a consequence. But if you don't do something wrong, I'm not going to give you a consequence for something that you didn't do, right? I'm not going to punish you or give you a consequence for something that you didn't do. Because how are we going to teach our children, teach our young men, teach our young black men in specific to honor authority, to honor and respect authority if they're being falsely accused? You see, they learn how to honor and respect authority, one, in their home, two, in the school. Those are two places, two pivotal places where they learn to honor and respect authority. But it's hard for them to honor and respect authority if they're being falsely accused for something the person knows that what they are doing or they knows that what they're saying is wrong and they don't come back and make it right with that student. So I knew that I had to find this young man and I had to go back and make it right with him. So I called him to my office. I called him to my office and I said, hey, man, I found out who made the noise, and I found out that it was not you. And I just want to apologize to you. I was wrong. I blamed you for something that you did not do. He accepted my apology, and I was very grateful for that. But here's the thing, fam. As he left my office, I knew in my heart, and I really believe the Lord placed it on my heart, that I needed to apologize to him in public. Just as loud as I may have gotten on him in front of his classroom because I really thought that he was being defiant in front of his classroom, as loud as I was with my scolding, if you will, I need to be just as loud with my apology. So I found him. I went to his classroom and I addressed him in front of the class, and I addressed the class. And I said, I got on your classmate pretty hard a little bit earlier because I thought it was him that did something. And fam, I told them, I said, class, I realized that I was wrong. I know who did it. That student has been addressed. But in front of your classmates, sir, I want to apologize to you for what I did and for getting on you for something that you did not do. And fam, if you could have seen him, it was amazing. His shoulders literally went from being tense to just dropping, just almost like a sense in a sigh of relief. And once again, this is one of our tougher students. When he wasn't fake tough. He got in trouble before this. He got in trouble after this. But in this case, he did not do it. And I didn't want to hold him accountable for something that he didn't do. Rather, I wanted him and his classmates to see what it looked like for an adult to hold themselves accountable. I was wrong. I acknowledged that I was wrong in front of him. About a month or two later, I was going through some of his documents because he did get in trouble for something that he legitimately did a little bit down the road. Okay. And I was calling his parents, and our principal told me, he said, hey, call his father. I've had a lot of success when it comes to dealing with him, dealing with his father and his behavior. I called his father, left a voicemail. The student came to my office. He said, Mr. Henderson, did you call my mom yet? I said, I called her, but I was unable to reach her. So what I did was I called your dad and left a voicemail because he wasn't able to play in the basketball game because of something else that he had done, right? He said, Mr. Henderson, my dad died, man. What? I said, hey, when your dad passed away? He told me around the time his dad passed away. And fam, it was right around that time where I had gotten on him for something that he didn't do. My heart sank. My heart sank, but if I'm honest, at the same time, there was a sense of gratitude because I knew that I had gotten something right with this young man. And I'd shown him what accountability looked like. But at the same time, my heart just went out to him, fam. My heart just went out to him. His dad died in a tragic way, in a very, very tragic way. Something that you wouldn't expect as you're going into work that day. So what I did was I just continued to spend time with him. And over the course of the next couple of years, he did get in trouble. But what I did see from this young man was a level of accountability. He was accountable for his actions. And I really believe that some of that accountability really came from some of the interactions that we had, some of the examples that he was able to see from me, and then also from his parents. I still talk to his mother to this day because he has another sibling that's still in our school. Still talk to her. And she's forever grateful that we were always fair with her son. Also accountable, because when I was wrong, I came back and I told them, hey, I was wrong. And I don't ever want you to be blamed for something that you didn't do, because you don't deserve that from authority. We can't be abusing our authority, fam. If we get it wrong, let's just acknowledge that we're wrong, because our actions always speak louder than our words. We can either tell our children, our students, our kids to be accountable, or we can show them. It's best to tell them and to show them, because they're looking at our example. They're looking at our lives, and they will always imitate what they see from us. The last area we're going to talk about today is integrity. And integrity, simply defined, is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. So what does that look like, fam? Integrity on the job, integrity with how we carry ourselves in our lives, in our home. You know, one thing that I'm glad my children can say, and my wife can say this as well, you know, my wife has told my colleagues, the same Paul or the same Mr. Henderson that you all see at work, that's who we get at home, and vice versa. The same dad or husband that my wife and my children get at home, that's who I am at work. I'm honest. We want to do our very best to be honest. Because one thing I learned, fam, if you lie, it's kind of hard to keep up with the lies that you've been telling, okay? Because one lie typically leads to another, so on and so forth. So one thing I've done my best to model is integrity for my wife, my children, and the students that I serve. Even if it puts me at risk of losing my job. Fam, there have been times where I have been asked to do things, you know, on certain jobs that I did not feel would be living up to the standard of integrity, specifically for me, godly integrity. You know, because here's the thing. I know that I have to answer to God. I also know that I have to answer to my wife, and I also know that I have to answer to my children for how I live. When I come home, I want to be sure that I can look my wife in her eyes, knowing that I lived that day with integrity. I want to know that I can look my children in their eyes, knowing that I lived that day, that I worked that day with integrity. You know, there have been a couple of times where I was asked to do certain things on my job that I didn't feel comfortable with, because I felt like it would violate of the godly integrity that I believe God has called me to. And I'll be honest, it was hard, fam, because the reality is some of the things that I was asked to do, if I didn't go through with it, I was honestly thinking, man, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my job by saying no to an authority figure when it comes to just living with integrity. Saying no to something that they're asking me to do when it would cause me to not live with integrity. I can't do it. I can't do it. And fam, I remember going through these things and talking with my wife through them. And I'll be honest, fam, sometimes it was hard because I'm married with 4 children. So if I lose my job, my goodness, what could potentially happen? I knew that me saying no to certain areas could put my job at risk. I don't know what conversations they're having when I'm not around. This guy Paul, I don't know. He's not going to cover up for us, or he's not going to do the things that we're asking him to do. We need to find somebody else that if we ask him to do something, even if it's wrong, they'll just go with it in order to cover us. I don't know if they're having those conversations, fam. I don't know if they're having those conversations, but I know that I have to answer to the Lord. I have to answer to my wife. I have to answer to my children for how I choose to carry myself. And I remember walking through some of these tougher things, walking through and being asked to do things that I'm like, I know that's not right, so I can't do it. I can't do it, fam. And I remember being asked to do them, and I would say no, and then I would come home, fam, and I would have a talk with my sons. And I would say, this is why your dad said no. Not that I'm trying to dishonor or disrespect my authority, but I know that I answer to the Lord. I answer to God. And I want to come home knowing that I can look my wife in her eyes and that I was honest that day. I had an honest day's work. I can look at my sons and I can tell them to do the right thing, knowing that I'm also doing the right thing, because they are going to look at their father and they are going to imitate me. My 4 sons will imitate me. And I got to be sure that I'm giving them something worth imitating. You see, the reason I was able to go through these hard situations, and fam, it was hard because I know that as the head of household, for the most part, I bring in the most income. But what helped me? What helped me to stand up for what was right? It was my unwavering belief in God. I knew that He would sustain me through these challenges. If I do the right thing, I know that I can continue to put my trust in God, and He will keep me for honoring Him. And I teach my boys the same thing. My boys know that, hey, my dad is going to do the right thing. He's going to encourage us to do the right thing. And that God will have our back because He takes care of His own. So my boys, they see me living with integrity. Even when it's hard, they see me living with integrity. They see their mother living with integrity. Kira and I, we do our very best to live with integrity. And not just show them, but teach them along the way of why we're doing it. And we tell them why we're making the decisions that we're making. Because we know that more than what we say, they're going to watch us. They're going to watch how we live. So fam, as we wrap up today, I really want to talk to, encourage us to keep going. For those of us who have been doing well and we're teaching our children the right thing, I want to encourage you to keep on. But for those of us who may have struggled in these areas, whether it's work ethic, whether it's accountability, or whether it be integrity, I want to let you know that the opportunity is still in front of you to bounce back. The opportunity is still in front of you to bounce back. Because by you bouncing back, guess what? Your children are still having something to imitate. You may realize, you know what? My work ethic hasn't always been where it needs to be. Guess what? You are able to bounce back and walk your children, talk with them about how you're bouncing back, that you're still giving them something to imitate. Not perfection. Trust me, not perfection, because my sons have also seen me walk through some hard things, and they've also seen me bounce back. I remember specifically, fam, there was a time where my wife and I, we were going through a challenge, within our marriage. And I remember specifically walking with my sons around the block and just praying. And guess what? They didn't know exactly what was going on, but they knew that we were having a challenge and that there was something that we had to go through. We weren't seeing eye to eye on some things. They saw me walking and praying. And guess what? Some of the things that we were having troubles with, a lot of it was my fault. It was my fault. And even though my boys didn't know the details of everything, guess what? They saw me figuring out a way to bounce back. I was modeling to them, hey, you don't just tuck your tail and run. You figure out a way to bounce back. You figure out a way to persevere. And that's what they saw. They saw me bouncing back. And maybe it's accountability, and maybe you haven't been the most accountable. Guess what, fam? You still have an opportunity right in front of you to come back to your children, to come back to your students, and to say, you know what? I wasn't accountable there, or you know what? I want to be accountable for what you saw at that time. I can't just tell you to be accountable, but you're not seeing it from me. So I want to come to you and I want to apologize about whatever that situation was. The opportunity is still in front of you, fam. It's still in front of you. Or maybe it's a lack of integrity, and you know that your children have seen you live a life without integrity. Guess what, fam? You can still bounce back. Yes, you can still bounce back. And by you bouncing back, you're giving your children, you're giving your students, you're giving those, the young people around you, an opportunity to see what it looks like to bounce back from a failure, to bounce back from a shortcoming, because they're still imitating you. Yeah, you may have dropped the ball. Hey, join the club, but you can still bounce back. And what you do when you're bouncing back is you're showing your children that failure is not fatal. You don't have to be defined by your mistakes, but you can bounce back. Fam, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining us today. Remember, we are in this together. Let's remember to give our children something to imitate, something worth imitating, right? And remember that we are in this together. We're learning, we're growing, and we're modeling how to live life for our children, for our young people, one day at a time. You got this.
You got this. Yes, Lord.
Wait, it was still going?